Oh, hello, yeah. Well, it's sort of midweeky, isn't it? Yes, I'm sort of trying to get on with things, which I think I am. But these days, when I'm not actually at work, actually at work, it always seems just a bit kind of drifty. It's probably a good thing. It's probably good for my psyche to sit with a book or just staring blankly into nothingness. Anyway, yesterday, we were still dealing with the fallout. Well, other people were dealing with the fallout of Sarah Pachin, which the various people on the right, so various right-wing parties, seem very, very keen to move on from because we've got more important things to think about after all. Anyway, there was this in the Daily Express, which I actually want to quote because it shows how these things can be, well, shown in various different lights, should we say. It does sort of put the spotlight on notions of racism. So here we go. Nigel Farage slams East London protesters as foreign army invading our streets. Ooh, sounds deadly, yes. It's worthwhile reading the main part of it in full, just for the bit that doesn't actually talk about Sarah Pachin, because it kind of drifts in that at the end. Nigel Farage has likened masked Muslim protesters marching through town hamlets to a foreign invading army, branding the scenes one of the most terrifying things I've seen in my life. The Reform UK leader's combative remarks came after hundreds from the Bangladeshi community took to the streets of East London on Saturday, following a ban on the UK Independence Party UKIP demonstration in the borough. Yeah, that might be an important point, but let's move on anyway. Gathering outside Whitechapel Station, the crowd waved Palestinian and Bangladeshi flags, many donning balaclavas, on sale for £5 each to shield identities. Balaclava-clad men chanted, "We will honour all our martyrs, Allah Akbar, and Zionist scum off our streets," vowing to defend the community amid heightened tensions. The protest was staged in response to UKIP ban imposed over peers of public order. It's that Nick and the Turning Point crew yet again. He does get around, doesn't he? Yes, anyway. Speaking to the Westminster press conference yesterday, which was supposedly wanted to sort of highlight about grooming gangs and various people not being happy about Jess Phillips, which in itself is an entire longer video about that one, but never mind. Which was a bit derailed, one might say, by the Sarah Pachin things, which is probably the reason why he was a bit cross about it. Anyway, the MP of Clacton decried the display as raw intimidation. He said it was intimidation to the point of basically urging the mass wipeout of large numbers of Jewish people. It's one of the most terrifying things I've seen in my whole life. Maybe one day the deluded left will wake up to realise they've been with very strange bedfellows. Yes, we do go in with very strange bedfellows, don't we? But that's one of the standard things that people say about us. Oh, yeah, you know them. They're always into strange bedfellows. Anyway, he continued, it was like a foreign army invading, marching through our streets, and I defy anyone in this room to tell me that's wrong. Well, I don't really think there were many people in the room telling him it was wrong, but I'm quite happy to. I mean, just a bit of context to this. UKIP, Nick, God, I can't even think of his surname now, but it's not particularly British. Anyway, wanted to rock up and basically march through the streets, with crosses and all the kind of paraphernalia that they do. Clearly provocative. One might think back to, similar scenes to, let's say the late 1930s and that nice Mr. Mosley in exactly that part of the world when, the local community turned out to defend themselves in scenes very, very not very similar at all whatsoever to what was going on there. You can't expect to go into local communities like that and expect no reaction. But of course, in this case we do, because we have to ascribe different things to different groups of people. 1938 was proud patriots, even though they were lefties and strange bedfellows, actually standing up for Jewish people. But because it isn't Jewish people anymore, and they don't count properly in the same way that they used to, I'm not quite sure what's going on with the racism here, then we have to ascribe different values to it. I don't personally see Zionist scum off our streets as a particularly bad thing, bearing in mind what we have seen, the actions of Zionism abroad. Anyway, just to finish up, and then we'll sort of look at the wider context. He further insisted proper racism was unfolding in Tower Hamlets, while pointing out that left-wing demonstrations had also been rebuffed by the large groups of men. Yeah, proper racism. Because apparently, I guess, Sarah Pachin's is improper racism. I always thought that racism itself was just improper. But what this is, of course, is just, again, ascribing different actions to different groups of people, one of whom will be a group of people with, let's say, a particular religion or DNA who are bad, but when the same actions happen to another group of people with different DNA or religion, then they are good, or we just ignore it. And unfortunately for this one, you can't squirm away from it. I'm sorry, but groups of right-wingers, very often who are balaclava-led, and there's links down below. I can point you to some of the people that were on the march that did actually happen in London, again met by about twice as many counter-protesters, were actually wearing balaclavas. And if you think back to, for example, the events of August of this year, when there were once again balaclava-clad right-wingers outside hotels, you will notice that the whole argument about face coverings suddenly disappeared. Well, it would transpire that just a couple of months to allow the dust to settle is absolutely fine to bring that back up again. But one has to say, where exactly are we, whereby we ascribe, for example, migrant hotels, a group of patriots defending their community, compared to another group of people who aren't outside a migrant hotel defending their community? Where exactly are we going with this? And the answer is, it doesn't really matter, because you see, when you're a racist, then you can just simply try and ignore reality. And that's what Nigel does. And indeed, yesterday we had the same thing from Kemi Badenoch, who basically refused to have anything to say about what you would have thought, as a member of a party, that she'd have something to say about Sarah Pachin coming out with racist comments. But she basically said she was just a bit bored with the whole thing. Just a bit bored, I'm afraid, said our Kemi. Yeah, she just wouldn't answer. And you think, really? Why is that then? Well, because in that case, it opens up a very, very nasty can of worms, because then we have to sort of question, those other leadership contenders like Robert Jenrick. Astounding that the leader of the Conservative Party won't actually give a good kicking to the one person who would potentially be a threat to her. But that's the nature of her leadership, isn't it? But this is where we are these days with these people, of course, because we have to ascribe racism simply to one group of people. Yes, all them bad brown people. And historically, of course, they've always been racist. Remember all them bad slavery. Oh, remember the Barbary pirates. Oh, dreadful, 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 dreadful. Still slavery all over the world. Dreadful, dreadful, dreadful. Nothing to do with me, gov. Yes, how convenient to ignore all of those different forms of reality. Still, Reform are still doing it, and they will carry on doing it, and I'm sure that we'll see this one carry on bumping along the bottom until once again somebody says something which is even more dodgy. But again, you can just do it, can't you? Because the British media don't want to go there. They won't touch this one at all. Now, a few years ago, let's say at least 10 years ago, and certainly 20 years ago, if an MP had come out with this stuff, it would have been literally career-ending. They would have been fired. Think Enoch Powell for that very reason. But not anymore. Why? Because the whole shtick of Reform and the whole shtick of our neocons in the Badenoch party is to play the race card with everything. There's no real economic plan. I don't really want to hear about, Danny Kruger, the new darling of Reform. Oh, I thought he was a member of the Conservative Party. Oh no, he's reinvented himself. Yes, he's magically reinvented himself. Presumably he's got different DNA, or maybe he's changed religion or something like that. He's turned from a bad person into a good person simply by switching sides. And yes, he'll lead us to that great nirvana whereby, we can just cut loads of civil servants. Like we did in 2010. And you will notice how brilliant that turned out. Think about all those great cuts we were made, in the prison service. And we, suddenly it's problematic, isn't it? Still, never mind. I know it didn't work before, and it was done by exactly the same people, but trust me, this time it certainly will. And if it all does go wrong, let's face it, it's gotta be those strange bedfellows of the leftists, hasn't it? God, they're awful, aren't they? Yes, going around supporting people and not wanting fascists marching through their community. Just absolute scum that they are. Maybe not in 1938. Or were they then? I'd love somebody like Nigel to explain to me exactly what the meaning of Cable Street is today. But there again, I doubt if he'd know anything about it. Do have a lovely one if you can do, and if you can't, it's probably the leftists.